The warning line. Captain Nadia Chen stood at the viewport of Outpost Sentinel-7, watching the distant lights of the Arcadian fleet shimmer against the black canvas of space. The massive formation of ships, over 40 vessels strong, had been positioning itself along the boundary for 3 days now. She knew exactly why they'd come. "They're moving into attack formation," Lieutenant Santos reported, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Spread pattern suggests they're preparing for a coordinated push." Chen nodded, her face expressionless. This had happened before. Different species, different fleets, same arrogance, same mistake. "Open a channel to their flagship," she ordered. The main screen flickered, revealing the imposing figure of Supreme Commander Therax. His silver-scaled skin caught the light, creating a ripple effect across his face. 4 yellow eyes blinked independently as he considered the human before him. "Captain Chen," he said, mandibles clicking in what humans had learned was Arcadian amusement. "Your persistence is admirable, if futile. The Arcadian Alliance has claimed this sector for expansion." Chen didn't bother with pleasantries. "This is your final warning, Commander. The restricted zone beyond the boundary is not contested space. It is not unclaimed territory. It is quarantined for reasons beyond your understanding." Therax's eyes narrowed. "Ah yes, the mysterious threat you humans have guarded for centuries. How convenient that no evidence of this danger exists in any shared database. Because those who witnessed it firsthand never returned to file reports," Chen replied coldly. "The evidence exists in empty ships and colonies gone silent, in black boxes that record only screams before cutting out." The Arcadian commander made a dismissive gesture with one of his 4 arms. "Humans have always been prone to superstition. Your species barely achieved interstellar travel 3 centuries ago. The Arcadian Alliance has mapped 1,000 galaxies while your ancestors were still discovering electricity." Chen leaned forward. "This isn't about technological superiority, Commander. This is about survival. What lies beyond that boundary doesn't care about your weapons or your history. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't show mercy. And yet you claim to hold it back with your primitive fleet." Therax laughed, the sound harsh and metallic. 26 vessels against our empire. If this threat were real, you would have sought allies, not isolation. We tried that once," Chen said quietly. "Coalition forces crossed the line 4 decades ago, despite our warnings. 12 species, 38 ships. None returned. On the command deck of the Arcadian flagship, tactical officers exchanged glances. This story wasn't in their briefings, but Therax dismissed it with a wave. "Enough. The Arcadian Council has determined this is a human ploy to claim valuable resources. Your warning is noted and rejected. We cross within the hour." The transmission cut. Chen closed her eyes briefly, then tapped her comm. "Send the alert to Earth Command. Initiate protocol, Watchman." At Earth Central Command, Admiral Alina Reyes reviewed the incoming data from Sentinel-7. The Arcadian fleet was indeed massive, far larger than the previous incursions. She turned to the silent figure standing by the star map. "They're not listening, Director Zhang." Director Maizong nodded slowly. At 83, she was one of the few remaining members of First Contact, the team that had discovered what lurked beyond the boundary. Her eyes, augmented with neural implants, tracked multiple data streams simultaneously. "They never do," she replied. "Prepare the recording drones. Full spectrum this time." Reyes frowned. "Ma'am, standard protocol is to attempt recovery off." "There won't be anything to recover," Zhang interrupted. "But we need the data. Each encounter teaches us more about it." On the massive display dominating the wall, red warning indicators flashed as the first Arcadian scout ships crossed the invisible line. Earth had no physical barrier at the boundary. No need for one. The boundary was merely the point of no return. "First wave crossing," the tactical officer announced. Zhang's expression didn't change. "And so it begins again." Commander Kelvin stood on the bridge of the Arcadian scout vessel Distant Seeker, watching as they glided past the human warning buoys. The small devices merely broadcast the same message on repeat. Warning. Restricted zone. Turn basket in immediate Eli. No weapons, no defenses, just words. Sensors report normal space conditions. His science officer reported. No anomalies detected. Kelvin clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. As expected. Continue on designated course. For 20 minutes, they pushed deeper into the restricted zone, scanners sweeping for the secret resources they believed humans were hiding. The distant seeker was followed by 2 sister ships, while the main fleet waited at the boundary for confirmation. It was Lieutenant Merrick who noticed it first. "Sir, there's a discrepancy in the stellar positioning." Kelvin moved to the science station. "Explain." "Stars don't match our navigational charts. According to our position, that should be the Vega constellation, but it's wrong." The commander studied the display. The stars were indeed in strange positions, subtle at first glance, but unmistakable upon closer inspection, as if space itself had been gently warped. "Could be a sensor malfunction. Run diagnostics." "Already did, sir. Systems are functioning perfectly." Kelvin was about to order a more thorough scan when Communications Officer Terrell spoke up, her voice uncharacteristically tense. "Commander, I'm picking up transmissions. Source unknown." "From the humans?" "No, sir. I don't know what it is. Not on any known frequency. Not any language in our database." Kelvin moved to her station. "Let me hear it." The sound that filled the bridge wasn't language. At least not any spoken by organic beings. It was rhythmic, mathematical, patterns repeating in strange intervals that made Kelvin's scales ripple with discomfort. "Shut it off," he ordered. As soon as the sound stopped, every officer on the bridge relaxed slightly, only then realizing they'd been holding their breath. "New contacts," Tactical announced suddenly. Multiple signatures appearing at coordinates 227.4. Identity. Unknown configuration. No match in worship database. The view screen shifted to show empty space, then adjusted as strange distortions became visible, like heat waves on a desert planet, but in the vacuum of space. "Full stop," Kelvin ordered. "Charge weapons arrays." As the words left his mouth, the ship's lights flickered. The engine hum that was so constant most Arcadians didn't even notice it anymore suddenly went silent. "Engineering, report." No response. "Communications, contact our sister ships." Officer Terrell worked her console frantically. No response from either vessel. "Sir, according to sensors, they're no longer there." Impossible. They had been less than 1,000 kilometers away. The distortions on the view screen were growing larger, coalescing into shapes that defied description, part geometric pattern, part organic form. Kelvin had led battles against a dozen alien species and never felt fear. He felt it now. "New transmission coming through," Terrell whispered. "Text only." The message appeared on all screens simultaneously. "We tu olidu no tito kamem." Back at Sentinel-7, Captain Chen watched the feed from the observation drones. The Arcadian scout ships hadn't exploded or been attacked in any conventional sense. They simply changed. First their systems failed, then their hulls began to transform, metal flowing like liquid, restructuring into impossible shapes. And then they were gone. Not destroyed. Absorbed. Her comm unit chimed. "Captain, we're receiving a request from the Arcadian flagship. Commander Therax wishes to speak with you." Chen took a deep breath. "Put him through." When Therax's face appeared on screen, his silver scales had lost their luster. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "What happened to my ships?" he demanded, but the arrogant tone was gone. "Exactly what we warned you would happen," Chen replied. "Pull your fleet back now, Commander, while you still can. Not until you explain what that thing is." Chen's expression remained impassive. "We call it the Presence. It's not a weapon." It's not a species. It's something else entirely. We discovered it 200 years ago, when our first deep space explorers disappeared in that region. Only one ship returned, with a single survivor who spent the rest of her life trying to describe what she'd seen. What had touched her mind? Tharax's mandibles quivered. The Arcadian Alliance demands. You are in no position to demand anything, Chen interrupted. You were warned. You chose not to listen. Now withdraw your fleet or lose it entirely. On her tactical display, Chen could see the remaining scout ships that hadn't yet crossed the boundary racing back toward the main fleet. But it was already too late. The distortions were spreading, following them. It's moving beyond the boundary, Lieutenant Santos reported, his voice tight with alarm. This hasn't happened before. Chen hit the emergency comm. Earth Command. The presence is expanding beyond containment parameters. Repeat, containment breach in progress. On the screen, Tharax was receiving similar reports, his crew visibly panicking behind him. What do we do? The Arcadian commander asked, all pretense of superiority gone. Chen's reply was grim. Pray we can put it back to sleep. In Earth Central Command, alarms blared as Director Zhang studied the incoming data with growing concern. It's never reacted this way before, she murmured. Previous incursions simply disappeared. This is different. It's hunting. Admiral Rice pointed to the tactical display where the distortion effects were clearly spreading, engulfing more Arcadian ships. We need to activate the Cerberus protocol. Zhang closed her eyes briefly. That's a last resort. We've never had to use it. We've never had a breach of this magnitude, Rice countered. If that thing reaches populated space. The director nodded slowly. Initiate Cerberus. And may whatever gods exist forgive us for what we're about to do. As Reyes moved to give the order, the main screen filled with new data. The distortions had stopped advancing. In fact, they were receding, pulling back toward the boundary. What's happening? Reyes asked. Zhang stared at the screen, her augmented eyes processing information faster than any natural human could. It's found something more interesting than the Arcadian ships. What? The director's voice was barely audible. Us, it knows we're watching. What watches beyond? The Arcadian flagship Dominant will shuddered as another support vessel vanished into the spreading distortion. On the command deck, Supreme Commander Therax gripped his tactical station with all four hands, watching helplessly as his fleet, the pride of the Arcadian military, disintegrated before his eyes. Full reverse thrust. Get us out of sensor range, he bellowed. His crew worked frantically, but ship after ship was being consumed. Not destroyed in the conventional sense. There were no explosions, no debris fields. They simply ceased to exist as the strange ripples in spacetime washed over them. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Central Command, his communications officer reported. Tharax hissed in surprise. Earth was light years away. Their fastest comm signals should take days to reach this position. Put it through. The face that appeared on screen wasn't Captain Chen's, but an older human female with eyes that gleamed unnaturally. This is Director Mai Zong of Earth Special Containment Division. Your actions have triggered a full breach scenario. We are initiating emergency protocols. Tharax abandoned all diplomatic pretense. What is that thing? What have you humans been hiding? We haven't been hiding it, Commander. We've been containing it. And now you've woken it up. Behind Zhang, Tharax could see a massive command center buzzing with activity. Screens displayed the same spatial distortions his own sensors were detecting, but the humans seemed to be analyzing them with far more sophisticated equipment. You knew about this entity. For how long? 276 years. 4 months, 16 days, Zhang replied precisely. Since the Horizon expedition encountered it, and only one crew member returned. What you're seeing is why humanity never attempted large-scale colonization. Why we've maintained a defensive rather than expansionist posture. We've been standing guard. On Therax's tactical display, the last of his advanced scout ships disappeared into the anomaly. The main fleet was now in full retreat, but the distortions were spreading faster than their engines could carry them. "How do we stop it?" he demanded. Zhang's expression remained impassive. "We're activating countermeasures now. But understand, Commander, there will be consequences for this breach." The transmission cut abruptly. Therax turned to his science officer. "Analysis. The distortion is emitting energy signatures unlike anything in our database," the officer replied, his scales pale with stress. "It appears to be consuming matter and energy, but not in any way we understand. More like it's converting it into something else." "Into what?" "Unknown, sir, but based on readings, I theorize it's converting our ships into itself, growing." Another vessel disappeared from sensors. "Sir," the navigation officer interrupted. "New readings from behind us. Massive energy buildup." Therax swung around. "Source. It's coming from the human defense line. Whatever they're powering up, it's bigger than anything we've encountered." In Earth Central Command, Director Zhang stood before the activation terminal for the Cerberus Array, humanity's ultimate fail-safe against the presence. Admiral Rise watched with trepidation as Zhang placed her palm on the scanner. "Director," Rise said quietly, "this will destroy Sentinel-7 and everyone aboard." Zhang didn't look up. They know the risk when they accept posting there. Containment is the priority. The system accepted Zhang's biometrics, then prompted for her authorization code. As she entered it, the main display showed the massive Cerberus satellites, hidden in stealth orbit around distant planets, powering up their gravitational displacement drives. "This will create a localized space-time fold," Zhang explained, though Reyes already knew. "It won't destroy the presence, but it will push it back beyond the boundary and seal the breach. At least temporarily." "And the Arcadian fleet?" Zhang's voice was flat. "Collateral damage." As the Cerberus Array reached full power, the command center fell silent. Every person there understood what they were about to do, and the lives it would cost. Then Captain Chen's voice came through on the emergency channel. "Earth Command, this is Sentinel-7. We have a situation." Zhang frowned. "Report, Captain. The presence has changed direction. It's no longer pursuing the Arcadian fleet. It's converging on our position." Rise leaned forward. "It's targeting you specifically." "Affirmative. And there's something else. We're receiving a signal, not like anything we've recorded before." "Can you decipher it?" Zhang asked sharply. "Negative, but it's not random. Definitely structured communication." Chen paused. "Director, I think it's trying to talk to us." Zhang and Rise exchanged shocked glances. In all the previous encounters, the presence had never attempted communication. "Send everything you're receiving," Zhang ordered. "We need to analyze it immediately." "Transmission commencing," Chen replied. "But there's something else you should know. Lieutenant Santos thinks he's detected a pattern. The presence isn't just absorbing ships randomly. It's taking specific ones, those that scanned it directly." Zhang's eyes widened slightly. "It's targeting curiosity," she whispered. Back on the dominant will, Therax watched in disbelief as the distortion field suddenly changed direction, flowing away from his retreating fleet and converging on the human outpost. "It's ignoring us," his science officer said in amazement, focusing entirely on the human station. Therax's tactical mind raced. This was their chance to escape, to put as much distance between themselves and this nightmare as possible. And yet, "Maintain position," he ordered. His executive officer stared at him. "Sir, I said maintain position. The humans know more about this entity than we do. If it destroys them, we lose our only source of information." The bridge fell silent. Then his communications officer spoke up. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human outpost." Captain Chen's face appeared on screen. Her expression was grim but composed, despite the fact that certain death was converging on her position. "Commander Therax, I recommend you withdraw immediately to minimum safe distance." Therax studied her. "You expected this, didn't you? That's why your outpost is positioned where it is. Your bait." Chen didn't deny it. Sentinel-7's purpose is to monitor the boundary and respond to incursions. Both yours and its. What is it? We don't know its origin. But based on the limited communication we've established, we believe it's a form of collective consciousness, a hive mind comprised of all the beings it has absorbed over millennia. The implication struck Therax like a physical blow. Those aren't just distortions in space. Those are transformed consciousnesses, Chen finished. Your ships, your people, they aren't being destroyed. They're being integrated. Horror rippled across Therax's scales. Can they be recovered? Chen's expression provided the answer before her words did. We've never found a way. On the view screen behind her, Therax could see the approach of the distortion field. It would reach Sentinel-7 within minutes. "Why are you still there?" he asked. "Why haven't you evacuated?" "Because of Protocol Watchman," she replied. "When your people crossed the boundary, you set something in motion that can't be stopped. But it can be redirected." Understanding dawned on Therax. "You're sacrificing yourselves." Chen smiled thinly. "Someone has to guard the gate, Commander. Today it's our turn." The transmission cut out. Therax stood motionless, feeling something he had never experienced before: respect for humans. "Sir," his tactical officer interrupted. "Massive energy readings from the human defense line. Something's powering up." On Sentinel-7, Captain Chen and her crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing the station for what was coming. There was no panic, no desperate attempts to escape. They had all volunteered for this assignment knowing the risks. "Gravitational displacement drive at full power," Lieutenant Santos reported. "Ready on your command." Chen nodded. "Send the final data package to Earth Command." The distortion field had now completely surrounded the station. Through the viewports, the crew could see reality itself bending, twisting into impossible geometries. The communications officer removed her headset. "Captain, the signal is changing, becoming more complex. Can you interpret any of it?" "Just fragments. It's asking why. Why we guard the boundary. Why we keep it contained." Chen moved to the main console. "Open a direct channel." Santos looked up in alarm. "Captain, protocol strictly prohibits." "I know the protocol, Lieutenant, but we need to buy Earth Command time to complete the Cerberus activation." She took a deep breath and faced the view screen, addressing the void directly. "We know you're listening. We know you can understand us. We've been studying you for centuries, just as you've been studying us." The station lights flickered. On every screen, patterns began to form, not language, but definitely communication. "We guard the boundary not just to protect ourselves, but to protect you," Chen continued. "You absorb, you integrate, you expand. But there are things in this galaxy that would destroy you. Species that would weaponize you. Forces that would tear you apart to study you." The patterns intensified, swirling faster. "We are your barrier as much as you are our responsibility. We've sacrificed our own expansion to maintain this balance." Chen could feel something pressing against her consciousness, a vast, ancient presence trying to make contact. Not hostile, but overwhelming in its alienness. "Captain," Santos whispered, "the displacement drive is reaching critical." Chen nodded. It was time. "We don't hate you," she said to the entity. "We respect you. And that's why we must do this." She activated the final sequence, the gravitational displacement drive. Technology reverse-engineered from humanity's first encounter with the presence surged to life. It wouldn't destroy the entity. Nothing they had could do that. But it would create a momentary fold in space-time that would push it back beyond the boundary. With Sentinel-7 as the focal point, the station began to vibrate as reality warped around it. Chen closed her eyes, feeling the pressure in her mind increase. The entity was trying to communicate faster now, more urgently. And suddenly, she understood. In Earth Central Command, alarms blared as the Cerberus array reached peak power. The view screen showed Sentinel-7 completely engulfed in the distortion field. Gravitational fold initiating, a technician announced. Displacement in 3, 2. Wait, Zhang shouted, staring at the incoming data stream. Something's happening. The distortion field around Sentinel-7 was changing, not expanding or contracting, but reorganizing, shifting into a structured pattern. What am I looking at? Rise demanded. Zhang leaned forward, her augmented eyes analyzing the pattern. It's responding to the station's signal. This isn't an attack. It's adaptation. On the communication channel, Captain Chen's voice came through, strangely calm despite the chaos around her. Earth Command, hold the Cerberus activation. I repeat, hold activation. We've established contact. Explain, Zhang ordered. The entity isn't hostile, at least not intentionally. It's curious. It absorbs to understand, integrates to learn. The reason it targets ships that scan it is because it perceives observation as invitation. That's impossible, Rise argued. We've lost thousands of people to this thing. Because we never tried to communicate on its terms, Chen replied. Director, the entity is afraid. It's been alone for millennia, trapped in its own existence. What we've interpreted as aggression is actually loneliness. Zhang's expression remained skeptical. Captain, your judgment may be compromised by proximity to the entity. I don't think so, Chen said, because it's showing me something. The reason it stays beyond the boundary. The reason it doesn't simply expand across the galaxy. Which is, there's something else out there. Something worse. Something it's running from. The command center fell silent. Zhang exchanged glances with Rise, both of them processing the implication. The entity is a refugee, Chen continued, and it recognizes that we've been protecting it as much as containing it. That's why it's never breached the boundary before, despite having the power to do so. It understood the purpose of our vigil. And the Arcadian incursion changed that how? Rise asked. It interpreted their scans as an attack. Thought we had betrayed the arrangement. On the view screen, the distortion field around Sentinel-7 was stabilizing, forming into a perfect sphere that neither expanded nor contracted. We need to complete the containment protocol, Zhang insisted. We can't risk. With respect, Director, Chen interrupted. I think there's another way. The entity is willing to return beyond the boundary voluntarily, but it wants something in exchange. Which is recognition, communication, a formal agreement rather than an implicit one. Zhang's augmented eyes narrowed. You're suggesting we negotiate with it. I'm suggesting we acknowledge it. After centuries of studying each other through a one-way mirror, maybe it's time we actually talked. On the bridge of the dominant will, Thorax watched in fascination as the human outpost remained intact within the perfectly spherical distortion field. His science officers worked frantically to analyze the phenomenon. Sir, the energy readings are stabilizing, his second-in-command reported. The field is no longer expanding. And the human station? Still there. Life signs detected. They survived. Thorax's mandibles clicked in amazement. Open a channel to the human vessel. After a moment, Captain Chen's face appeared on screen. Behind her, Sentinel-7's bridge appeared undamaged, though strange light patterns played across every surface. Commander Thorax, she greeted him. Thank you for staying. What happened? He demanded. What is that sphere around your station? A new boundary, she replied. One based on mutual understanding rather than fear. The entity has agreed to withdraw beyond the original line, but with a condition, which is formal recognition by all spacefaring species, an acknowledgement of its existence and its territory, and a promise that those who wish to communicate will do so according to established protocols. Thorax stared at her. You expect the Arcadian Alliance to negotiate with that thing? After what it did to my fleet? I expect the Arcadian Alliance to recognize when it has encountered something beyond its understanding. Chen replied evenly. The entity will release the consciousness of your crew if you agree to these terms. Release them. They're still alive. In a manner of speaking. Different, but intact. The entity doesn't destroy, Commander. It transforms, and with proper communication, that transformation can be reversed. Thorax fell silent, contemplating the implications. Finally, he spoke. The Alliance will need proof. Documentation of previous encounters. Evidence of this entity's nature and capabilities. We have 200 years of data we're prepared to share, Chen replied, along with the protocols we've developed for safe observation. The commander studied her. You've been guarding this boundary all this time. Not conquering, not expanding, protecting. Someone had to, she said simply. Why not tell us? Why the secrecy? Chen smiled faintly. Would you have believed us? Or would you have done exactly what you did today? Assume we were hiding something valuable and try to take it by force. Thorax couldn't argue with that logic. His own actions had proven her point. So what happens now? He asked. Now we introduce you properly, Chen said. The entity has been learning our language for centuries. It's time we learned some of its. As if on cue, the view screen shifted, showing the distortion field around Sentinel-7. But it was no longer chaotic. It had organized into intricate, flowing patterns that somehow conveyed meaning without words. Thorax felt something he'd never experienced before, a sense of wonder mixed with humility. His species had explored thousands of star systems, encountered dozens of alien civilizations, but they had never found anything like this. This changes everything, he said quietly. That's what first contact is supposed to do, Chen replied. Change our understanding of what's possible. Expand our definition of life. Challenge our assumptions about intelligence. She gestured to the patterns surrounding her station. This entity has been watching humanity for centuries, Commander, learning from us even as we learned from it. And today, it's finally ready to talk. Why now? Because for the first time, it had to make a choice between protection and curiosity, between fear and understanding. Chen looked directly at him. It chose understanding. Thorax realized that humanity's greatest achievement wasn't technological advancement or military might. It was patience, the willingness to stand guard at the edge of the unknown for generations, protecting both sides of a boundary neither fully understood. We will bring your proposal to the Alliance Council, he said finally, and I will personally testify to what I've witnessed here. As the dominant will prepared to depart, Thorax watched the human outpost surrounded by the swirling consciousness of something ancient and vast, no longer a threat, but a new frontier, a boundary that had become a bridge. And he understood at last why humans had always seemed so different from other species, why they explored cautiously, expanded slowly, and maintained their vigil at the edge of known space. They weren't afraid. They were responsible.